So many people are probably trying this and I am wrong. I am wrong in ways. Cantering. This video today is gonna be a little cringe for me. Basically, no one's perfect. And what I thought I would do today is go back through some of my old training videos and just hit some points where I realize now that I was wrong about some things. So let's get started. So as you're approaching the spooky object, if it ever gets to a point where the horse stops focusing on you again and they're focused on being afraid of that object, once again, you're just gonna retreat to a place where you can get them focused again and then go back at it. The first clip we're starting with today is from a video I did on working with a spooky horse. And watching this clip back, one thing I realized and one thing I noticed is I was making too much of a big deal about the scary object. So it is important to desensitize your horse and work on the ground with your horse to desensitizing things. I think it's a great exercise and it's also a great change of pace for them mentally. But when you're actually going through a situation where you're on your horse and you're trying to get past an object, or your horse is just really nervous about something, what I have learned now is that the best way to handle that situation, at least which has been my experience, is to simply ignore it as the rider. And the reason I say this is because Tucker, believe it or not, he may look pretty calm on camera, but he is a very sensitive horse and he is easily spooked. I shared a little bit about this in another video I did on the subject, but basically Tucker and I went through a very big change in how we work together and our dynamics. And it really stemmed from him just suddenly becoming very anxious all the time. After working with some trainers, I realized that the problem was me. So if we were trying to get past a scary object or through a scary situation, unknowingly, I was hyper-focusing on the object, trying to get him over it. So in this video, I noticed the same type of behavior where I'm like, okay, walk your horse past it, let your horse look at it, let your horse sniff it, and you're constantly trying to work around this object compared to, as the rider, just ignoring it. Horses are flight animals. They are always going to be looking at you to see how you're reacting at something to determine how they react. So if your horse sees that you're getting nervous in a situation, you're tightening your reins in a situation, you're constantly looking at that object, they're going to think that they need to do the same thing, and then they're gonna think that, oh, this object is something that I do need to be afraid of. If I notice Tucker suddenly starting to get worked up about something, whether it's an object or something off in the distance going on, I will purposefully not look in that direction, because I need to communicate to him through my body language that that's no big deal to me. And even as a rider, same thing. So usually if I was riding along and let's say there's something scary over here, I'd be like, Tucker, don't spook at that. And then he would be dropping his shoulder like that. So now what I do is, if we're riding, I'll just be like, oh, there's something over there, nothing to worry about, you know, and I will not look at it. That's just one example. So in this video, what I want to correct is becoming hyper fixated on the object yourself and drawing too much attention to that object you're trying to desensitize from. Desensitizing should just be very nonchalant. You should make it as simple as possible, and you yourself need to demonstrate that it doesn't freak you out, you don't care as much about it, and your horse is going to pick up on that a lot faster than compared to if you're making it a big deal. Of course, when working with a spooky horse, it still starts on the ground. You need to show your horse from the ground, where they can interact with you face to face, that there is no reason to be scared of that object. And another thing you can do is also try and get them focused on something else so they aren't so focused on the object. And a great way to do that is by groundwork. I have an online course that walks you step by step through some really simple yet really effective exercises that you can use if your horse is spooking, if you're dealing with an anxious horse, if you're just trying to teach your horse about your own personal boundaries and things like that. That course breaks it down very effectively, and so I'll put the link to that course in the description, and it's shop.equinehelper.com, and it's how to gain and maintain your horse's respect through groundwork course. So if I'm lunging my horse and I want them to pick up their gait or move faster, I can turn my shoulders forward, because that's communicating to move forward. And if I want him to slow down or come to a stop, I can turn my shoulders in and he slows down. Good boy. The clip we just showed is probably something I'm most guilty about, and I just feel like, ugh, so many people are probably trying this and I am wrong. I am wrong in a way. So what I showed in this video, as you saw, was one thing I believe is when you're lunging a horse and you're really teaching your horse how to go off your own body language and to communicate based off of body language, horses look at the direction your shoulders are pointing. So if you're lunging on a circle and you want your horse to go forward, you can kind of turn your shoulders to push them forward, which is correct in my personal opinion. I do think that helps. One thing I did not take into account when I was teaching this in this video is that when you do that and turn your shoulders, you're actually taking away all your other aids. For example, this may sound really complicated and I'll try to simplify it. When you're lunging a horse and you're facing them directly, like they're going around and your body's facing them like I'm facing the camera right now, your belly button is actually acting as your leg aid. So when I turn my shoulders to encourage my horse to go forward, my belly button is getting turned, and so I am immediately taking off that leg aid when I am lunging. And in essence, what I'm doing is I'm actually keeping my horse from moving forward because I'm taking off the leg. One thing you have to take into account for, and one thing I've worked on being really intentional on after I've learned this, is making sure all my aids are connected. So when I'm lunging my horse, even though I'm not technically on them, I still want my body to mimic my aids, my rein aids, my leg aids, my seat aids. So I'm not gonna be turning my body the whole time and just walking with my horse like that because I'm taking away my aids. That being said, I do think if you are a beginner and starting out with lunging, one step at a time, work on getting your horse to go forward, and then you can work on adding in your aids. That may make it easier to grasp for you. A really simple and easy place to start with helping your horse calm down while you're on the ground is getting them to lower their heads. So you may be asking, why would this help the horse calm down? But there are a number of reasons. Number one, if you've ever seen an anxious horse, their heads are usually straight up in the air, or they're looking around and they're just wondering what's going on. If you've ever seen a calm horse, their heads are more low-hanging, and a calm horse is going to be more eager to stretch their head down to eat grass, or stretch their head down to get a drink, or do anything like that. Okay, I honestly do not know what I was thinking when I decided to make this one of my first steps in getting an anxious horse to calm down. So this video was about how to calm down an anxious horse. Obviously, you saw the first thing I do is I try to get my horse to lower its head and stand still. Y'all, I don't know what I was thinking. Stop. Do not try that with your horse. First of all, my biggest issue with this is that if your horse is anxious, they don't want to just stand there. They want to move around and move their feet, because when a horse is moving their feet, that's when they feel safer. If I'm going to make my horse stand and lower its head, I'm probably going to work them up even more and make the situation worse. Now, when you're watching your horse and seeing what your horse is communicating, one way your horse will show that they are more comfortable in a situation is that they will be willing to lower their head. But I don't think purposefully getting their head down is going to help initially. One thing I've been working on now is I'll just start doing groundwork and moving my horse's feet and letting them feel comfortable like that, and then I'll work from there. Once I do that, so I'll move my horse's feet for a few minutes and then I'll have them stand and get a breath and relax. The rest of the training session will be based off of how the horse is reacting. So if I work the horse for a few minutes and then I let them stand and catch their breath, if they want to stand there and relax and drop their head, that's fine. And that shows that the horse is getting more comfortable. But if I ask them to stand and take a breath, but they don't want to stand, that shows that they are still anxious. And if they don't want to stand and their head is still up in the air, once again, it shows that they are still anxious. So I think my mistake with this was, number one, ignoring my horse's body language, and also not rushing the process of trying to get my horse to calm down. They have to calm down on their own. I can try and help them work through that, but I also don't want to work them up in the meantime. So if you're trying to calm your anxious horse down, do not do that step I shared. Do not do that. Instead, I would recommend groundwork and just trying to create as calm as an atmosphere as you can to help your horse relax. Okay, that was hard to do, but I feel like a weight has lifted from my shoulders. This wrong information has been corrected, and so I can rest easy. I think it's important to start creating an atmosphere in the horse world where we can look back and be like, no, I was wrong there, but also be able to say I was wrong there and not get completely lambasted. It's important to always keep learning. So instead of trying to pull your horse's head down to get them to calm down, I did mention that I would work them and move their feet and then let them catch their breath. So when I say move their feet, what I'm doing is I'm working on groundwork. Groundwork enables you to engage your horse from the ground and get their feet moving, but yet still give you control over their movement so your horse just isn't running wild. So once again, I do have that online course. It's at shop.equinehelper.com, and it's the how to gain and maintain your horse's respect through groundwork. And if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more weekly horse videos.